Bring in Republican Representative Florida Mike Haridopolos. Congressman, thank you for taking the time. Look, Speaker Johnson called the Senate bill unconscionable. Do you agree? I mean, this was led by Senate Republicans lead the Senate.
Well, we were shocked, actually, because the key of the 2024 election, which we all agreed on, was that the border was out of control. We need ICE agents to round up these persons who have broken the law after coming into the country, rape, murder, other sexual offenses. And we think that, of course, ICE and Homeland Security abroad should be fully funded. And we think it's a logical thing to do. And we're willing to work with Democrats in a broad number of reforms to make sure that both sides are protected.
Well, I guess, you know, the question is at this point is, yes, there's a lot clearly to debate over the tactics of the ICE agents, their importance, what they do, but also at the same time, you're in this shutdown where TSA agents are going without pay. Expected to see some pay tomorrow, but still, it's in its 44th day. Do you see any realistic path for lawmakers to end at least that funding fight while trying to then work out some of the larger questions over ICE and CBP?
Well, I'd like to see that. I'm a person who came to Washington in 2024, a new member of Congress who believes in the art of the possible. That's what politics should be. And so that's why we offered up an 8-week extension, keeping DHS fully funded, because we are facing attacks on the homeland. 2 in Michigan, 1 in Virginia, 1 in Texas. We had 3 recent murders as well. And so we want to really fully fund there, especially considering the conflict going on in Iran. So we said, let's take a pause. Let's fully fund DHS for 8 more weeks. And let's come up with common sense things like body cameras. Let's make sure that an ICE agent has this body camera. Let's also make sure they get more training because, as you know, in sanctuary cities, they do not get support from local law enforcement. I think those would be 2 winning combinations, which I'd be happy to support.
Well, and even what came out of the Senate, I mean, would it not still fund TSA and, allow civilian employees of the Coast Guard to at least receive pay during a very critical time, as you point out as well, while still then leaving those reforms for a little bit later, because they do seem to still be getting funding through the appropriations laid out in the funding bill earlier this year?
Good point, Omar, and that's one of the reasons why we're having this conversation. That's why we asked to simply say, let's what is called a CR, continuing resolution, continuing the current funding formula for 8 more weeks so that TSA, Coast Guard, Secret Service agents, FEMA, they're funded, and they deserve to be funded. They're working hard every single day. They deserve to get paid, and that's why we said, let's give it 8 more weeks to work out the ICE issue, what reforms need to be made. But in the meantime, pay these people and take the burden off the public who are waiting on lines for no apparent reason, in my opinion, at airports. These folks who work for TSA, they work hard every day. They protect us. They need to get paid. That's why we said let's continue 8 more weeks of pay and then find out where we are. And I am glad that President Trump is going to use some funds that are available to pay these TSA agents because they are being very much overworked, and we're losing too many right now. I think around 500 because of this chaotic situation in Washington, D.C.
Do you wish President Trump's plan to pay those workers had happened sooner?
Well, look, I can't go. I might have been a history teacher, but I can't go back in history. And so I think what we wanted to say in the House of Representatives is very clear. If the Republicans really read that bill closely, I think, in the Senate that came out at 3 o'clock in the morning, they would see that border security at ICE would have been slashed, around 7,000 DHS jobs in total. And we didn't want to do that. Again, we've really prided ourselves in finally securing the border. And so I'm glad that the president has moved forward. And let's also remember, so your viewers know, whenever this ridiculous stalemate ends, the good news is that all those persons will not only get paid, but will get back pay as well for their services that have already been rendered.
Well, the question is, of course, when will that back pay come? When, you all come back from recess, you will have that to work out. There's one thing I want to ask you about, because you're on the Science, Space and Technology Committee as well. We've got 4 astronauts getting ready to blast off into space from your state for the first human mission toward the moon, or at least to prepare for going to the moon in more than half of a century. How significant is this? How are you viewing things here?
Well, first, as the chairman of the Space Subcommittee in the Congress, I could not be more excited. I represent Kennedy Space Center. It's one of the things that brings all Americans together. 4 amazing astronauts who are going to go circling the moon for the first time, Omar, since 1972. We could be more excited. The space industry has become dominant here in the United States. We're beating the Chinese on both, of course, NASA-related missions and also commercial and military satellites that are being put up into space. It's going to be a great week for America to come together, see 4 brave astronauts go around the moon, and we're preparing for a moon landing in 2028 under the very able leadership of our new NASA director, Jared Isaacman, who has really hit the ground running.
Well, and we've been showing up on the screen right now. Artemis II set to launch this week on that historic moon mission to prepare for, again, what is expected to happen in just a few years' time. But we got this step first. Congressman Mike Haridopolos, really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for being here.